1 week away from the first game of the season, the Aztec football team celebrates its fans on board the USS Midway for the 2025 Aztec Football Kickoff Dinner. I'm Louis Weiner, along with Steve Perez. This is Aztecs All In. Steve and I had the pleasure of spending some time on board the USS Midway on a beautiful evening, Steve, and it was a fun event. Lots to be excited about.
Yes, and that is a wonderful venue to host such an event. It's a veritable floating museum, basically an aircraft carrier. And if you've never been on the deck of one of those, it's quite an experience in itself. And then you have the magnificent San Diego Bay in the background, wonderful summer weather, great company. Got a chance to talk to some Aztecs and some of the coaches and some fellow alumni from San Diego State. So all in all, very pleasant evening, and optimism is high, as you can tell from the way they were talking tonight.
Absolutely. Usually we, the fans, are sitting in the stadium and we see the coaches on the field. Today we were all together. We could walk up, talk to the players, talk to the coaches. The coaches were more than happy to spend some time talking with us, and that was a great evening and lots of fun. And we got a chance to talk to some of the players. I know I enjoyed talking to Gabe Placencia, the kicker, super nice guy. And we also talked to Hunter Green, the punter. That was fun, and we learned a little bit about those guys.
Yeah, it was great to talk golf with both of them, especially Gabe, because I asked him, hey, you played the game? Yeah, I'm not very good. I just started, and Hunter, he's probably better than me. And the reason I asked if they played the game is there are many similarities in what they have to do before they have that focus for that one moment before they have to execute a shot. But of course, Louis, golfers don't have to worry about 11 guys on the other team trying to knock their blocks off. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah, absolutely. And I learned from Gabe Placencia that he grew up in the Bay Area. He's a 49ers fan, as am I. We talked a little bit about Jake Moody, the kicker for the Niners, who's been dealing with some misses last year and some struggles. And he talked about how difficult it is for kickers to deal with situations like that. So that was very insightful for me, and a nice chance to talk with them. And we also talked with some of the coaches. I got to talk with Rob Ulrich, who's the defensive coordinator, and we found out, Steve, that his brother is a fan of the podcast. So that's great to know. And it was great talking to Coach Ulrich, because I asked him, since he just took over leading the defense, how things changed. And he said the plays are pretty much the same as last year, but the terminology is different. And it took a few practices for the players to get up to speed with the terminology. But once they did, he says they caught on real quickly. So it was great to be able to talk with him one-on-one about something like that.
Yeah, and talk to the offensive coordinator, Matt Johnson. And I showed him a snap of a formation that they showed at the Aztec showcase, and I'm not going to go into great detail about what it was, but I said, it looks like you can run a bunch of different things out of this particular formation. And the play they actually used that was very successful for them in the showcase, it's got a lot of other little wrinkles in it. So I think we'll be seeing that said formation that many times and many different circumstances, and some of them could be really good for the Aztecs. And so suffice it to say, it was a keen moment to have a little bit of time with the coaches and get a little insight, and also enjoyed brief chats with him and the defensive coordinator, Rob Ulrich. And they agreed with my observation that this year's Aztecs defense and the offense on both sides of the ball, it looks more physically imposing than last. And that's credit to Jeff Sobel, the head of football performance, for that. So we're going to learn more about some of the other things that they have done in the off season to develop some more of that mental toughness. But it was also great to talk and hang out with the players out of uniform and just get to know them as people as opposed to just numbers on a football field. After
you pointed that out to Coach Johnson, did he then offer you a position on the coaching staff?
Because
they could use your keen eye.
No. He just nodded, and we had that little moment where, yes, you saw it. I know. We've got it, and let's see what we can do with it. And the other thing that we've been discussing in previous podcasts is the Aztecs' determination this year to succeed with the run game. And we're going to hear from yet another element of that run game later in this podcast when we talk about tight ends. But that ability to get the run going opens up the pass and can lead to many exciting opportunities this season. And as we've said already, that optimism is high. Coach Lewis was telling the people who were in attendance that maybe I ought to dial this back a little bit, because I could see my guys over there getting really excited because they were.
And the event was hosted by John Schaefer, the voice of the Aztecs, and there was a special guest, Steve, who you're going to talk a little bit about.
Yeah, earlier in a previous podcast, I got to correct this. I was under this mistaken impression that Steve Fisher was going to give a speech at this event, but it turned out that he did talk to the team, not in a public setting. And the actual featured speaker, the after-dinner speaker, was Navy Captain Timothy Sulick, who is now the commanding officer of the Naval Special Warfare Basic Training Command, and also a former Aztec. He was the after-dinner speaker, and he was pretty deadpan about it and said the after-dinner speaker is the guy who has to speak quick because half of his audience is probably nodding off
from a big
meal, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, he's been in the U.S. Navy for 23 years and played as an Aztec linebacker in the late 90s, and in week 3 of his season, he sustained a season-ending injury, and that was pretty much the end of his career as an Aztec football player. But after that, he became a Navy SEAL and spent 20 years of his service in the Navy in combat. The last 3 years he's been doing the instruction, and gave some pretty keen insight into how he achieved that by virtue of participating in Aztec football. He said in this comment from his speech that he probably wouldn't have been able to accomplish that if he hadn't gone through what he went through as an Aztec football player.
SDSU taught me that I will get knocked on my can, but practicing resiliency became critical to survival. My linebacker coach at the time at State, Jeff Fitzgerald, taught us to work, no kidding. The linebackers were the first on the field and the last off every day without question. He believed no matter how good we were, we could always be better. He taught us the universal truth that shortcuts don't exist. And as hard as his off-season workouts were, I'm confident I made it through SEAL training in part because every day he demanded excellence, if in nothing else, my effort. San Diego State took kids from all backgrounds and origins and provided a common purpose that overcame our minuscule differences. It didn't matter where you came from. Once you walked out on the field for the first time, none of it mattered. You were judged singularly on your will to succeed. Other than combat, I've never felt unconditional brotherhood quite like here.
Steve, fantastic hearing from him. It was a great speech, and everybody was riveted. Nobody was talking, and everybody was really focused in on what he had to say.
Yeah, he wasn't a fiery speaker,
No.
but the words that he had to say were very important and impactful.
Yeah, and then we heard from Coach Sean Lewis, and we also heard from the offensive coordinator, Matt Johnson, defensive coordinator, Rob Ulrich, and special teams coordinator, Zac Barton.
Right.
Oftentimes we don't get to hear from those guys all in one setting, so it was great for the fans in attendance to get a chance to listen to those guys. And here's a short snippet briefly of what some of them had to say.
Be able to have the honor and to earn the right to wear the team colors, to wear the Aztec red, and to have the interlocking SD Spear logo on your chest is something our guys do not take for granted, and it means the world to them. And to have our guys stand up in front of the team and to recite our Aztec creed, you can feel within our building each and every single day, and you can feel and experience from that video the pride that our guys have in restoring the pride to this program. And JD alluded to in his opening remarks the 13 years of consecutive bowl wins. This year will be the first year where we will start a new streak, and this will be the first year and the last year in the Mountain West as we bring this trophy home.
Real quick, I'm going to talk about some of the offensive players that are coming back for us, some of the faces that you guys will be able to recognize when we're out in the field. A lot was made this offseason about the quarterback position. We were able to bring in two. One of them's here tonight, Jaden Denigal, who won the starting job. He'll be the one leading us to victory, right, JD? Yeah, that's right, babe. The backs, right, we have three local guys. Lucky Sutton will be the starter for us. Byron Cardwell and Christian Washington, local guys who will also be toting the rock. Absolutely. We did some work in the portal at the tight end position as well. We went and got two The starter this year, Seth, the Boogey Man Adams, self-proclaimed Boogey Man. The receivers, Jordan Napier coming back, most production in that receiver room. Okay. Also did some work there. Donovan Brown, Jacob Bostic, Miles Kidd Denton. Those will be some of the guys that you'll see. And then, as Coach Lewis mentioned, right, Mikey Welsh has done an unbelievable job, earned himself a scholarship this camp. And then, my favorite people on the planet, the linemen. Yes. Yes. Can't do anything without the 5 up front. Right, we all know it's one in the trenches. Ross, stand up. Told you I was gonna make you stand up. Come on, Ross. Come on, babe. Yeah. All right, starting center right there. Okay, able to bring back 3 starters from last year. Really happy to have Joe back from injury. You guys that were there week 1 saw that. He's healthy, he's ready to go. Christian Jones, and then we were able to add some pieces inside as well through the portal. So
defensively, we have a tremendous group. You should have really high expectations. I know that you do. There's something when you work for this organization and wear this logo on your chest, that there's a certain brand of defense that you expect. And one thing I can promise you as kind of the head of it, I guess, we're not going to be dictated to. We're an aggressive style defense. We're going to attack every opponent on our roster. It's been a great challenge these past 3 weeks competing against Maddie and Coach Lou, and it's made us better. And we've been, the last 3 weeks of camp, we've been in tunnel vision, blocking out outside distractions, blocking out whatever's on the periphery. And how good can we get in these last 3 weeks at our job, our assignment, and executing the task? And these defensive players and the offensive players as well have done a tremendous job. Can I get the players to stand up real quick? All the players? Yeah. A year ago, you can sit down now, sit down. That's enough.
So obviously I coach the special teams. I don't know why they make me go last. I should go first. That's always the order of things, always end up here last. What we've got going on here, obviously it's the same thing. Coach always talking about the defense here, special teams. Most of the places I've been, when you come into a new culture, things are broken. Things were not broken here on special teams, not even close. From afar, when you looked at it, the gold standard. So trying to maintain that every day is where we're at. And those guys last year, that's what they did. So once I got out of Gabe's way, that's what he did. And then obviously Tyler last year at punter, first team all conference, did a phenomenal job. Ryan Wintermeyer, who's graduated, was a long snapper, has returned to Phoenix, 4-year starter. I haven't been around any better. I was talking to Gabe yesterday. I don't think that I've ever met somebody work harder than Ryan, ever. You know what I mean? I'm probably gonna be looking for that for a long time. So going into this year, Gabe's coming back. So Gabe was one of the many guys that we have on this roster that could have gone anywhere he wanted to in the country, and he decided that he wanted to be here with us, okay, which is a huge deal. And so Gabe is kind of, right now, he's not only competing with other guys around the country, but he's competing with himself at a standard that he knows he needs to meet and where he's at. Then we brought in a new punter, Hunter Green, who, if I don't screw him up, should be an NFL punter.
Great hearing from them, and afterwards we also heard from some of the players during a Q&A session with Coach Sean Lewis and a couple of the players, Steve.
Yeah, Ross Ulrich, who's like basically the captain of that offensive line as the center. They kind of asked him how he felt about the new quarterback, Denegal, and he said, hey, we're bonded. We probably have the tightest bond on that whole team. So it was interesting and illuminating, and it's inspiring to hear him talk about how his new quarterback and him have really taken to that task of moving that offense. That's pretty much what he said. We're going to go get him. And then Trey White was also the edge rusher, and he had some fun things to say. But my overall impression about that session, which Coach Lewis was on, is they all seemed pretty relaxed, and they talked about the family spirit they were trying to develop there, and that is what kept a lot of these Aztec players home in San Diego, many of whom hometown heroes. That's the phrase that Sean Lewis likes to use. And when they could have gone somewhere else, perhaps for more money. So you get the feeling that it's year 2 of the Sean Lewis era, And we'll see the results on the football field. They speak for themselves. But as far as the feeling you get, it feels like they're making headway.
Yeah, it was very lighthearted. Q&A. One of the questions came from tight ends coach Ryan Lindley. He asked Trey White about who his best friend on the team was, and then Trey White answered that and asked some of the players questions. So they went back and forth on that. Very fun, lighthearted. They really enjoyed being there, and I think the players really enjoyed mingling with the fans too, from what I saw.
It was one of those interesting experiences you get to have away from the football field with players just exchanging ideas and having conversations, talking about things other than football, and getting to know them as three-dimensional people and not just these people who run around the football field hitting and running after each other.
Well, I just mentioned Coach Ryan Lindley. He's the tight ends coach, and Steve had the opportunity to talk tight ends with Lindley and one of the players. So let's listen in on that.
Last few segments I produced for Aztecs All In focused on the lines of scrimmage. In that regard, he said, using a Coach Lewism, I just may have overlooked yet another key component on the offense. That being the tight end position. Lining up as an extra blocker at times, running a route to give the quarterback yet another option, that requires a special kind of athlete. Here's Coach Lou's overview of the role of the tight end and his style of offense, drawing a parallel to those gigantic Autobots featured on the big screen. Living robots from Cybertron with the ability to shift their shapes on command.
So the tight ends are really the transformers of our offense, right? They got to be able to do a little bit of everything. They got to be able to flex out and act like a wide receiver. They got to be able to, put their hand in the dirt and be an extension of the offensive line. And then they got to be cerebral football players because they got to be tied into everything that's going on within the run game and pass pro. So we put a bunch on their plate. They're a bunch of really, really smart guys. And then obviously when you have a gentleman like Coach Lindley, right, with his depth of knowledge and him being able to see the game from multiple positions, from his coaching experience, but then also having operated it from the quarterback position, I think he does an unbelievable job of caring for his guys first and foremost, right, and then passing along the knowledge of information. But Coach Lindley does an unbelievable job of showing his guys how much he cares, right, and then because of that, then they want to know, okay, well, what do you know, and how can you make me a better player? Right, and he coaches them really, really hard, but he loves on them really, really hard, and obviously has tremendous pride in this program. And I've leaned on him, in quite a bit of ways, right, in terms of learning about the proud traditions of being here on the Mesa, and I've leaned on him and Coach Schmidt and Coach Gorder and Coach Spalding and all the guys who have played here, right, and truly given blood, sweat, and tears to restore pride in this program and to utilize their knowledge.
So are you getting now why the Aztecs look to run for more yards more consistently this season? Coach Lou mentioned Jackson Ford behind him, a redshirt freshman out of Melissa, Texas, who played in 9 games at Tulsa last season before transferring in. Arthur Band, redshirt for the Aztecs last year as a freshman, comes to the program from Evergreen High School in Seattle. Ryan Wolfers, another redshirt freshman brought in last year out of Liberty High School in Peoria, Arizona. Another converted offensive lineman, but proved he could catch the ball in Peoria. 36 receptions for 536 yards, 3 TDs. Coach didn't mention him in the prior comment, but Aztecs also have Jack Lua, who caught that TD pass from number 3 QB Kyle Crum during the showcase. He's a true freshman, averaged 12 yards a catch. Likely a redshirt season ahead of him, but we'll see. Lead coach in the room is a guy who made more noise throwing the football as an Aztec and in the NFL. Ryan Lindley, of course, Aztecs' all-time passing leader. He has the title in the coach Sean Lewis era as senior offensive analyst, but also continuing to put in time on the field coaching the tight ends. He knows the offenses, what makes them go. Just the kind of coach to push a guy like Adams to be the best he can be and help the rest along as well.
Man, it's been fun to watch how that's gonna change. We go into the spring and you build it out. Obviously we get a guy like Seth Adams, and knowing that he's going to set the tone, we feel like we need to go get real physical in that room, and we did. Obviously he sets the tone with that. He's the elder statesman in there too, but just the physicality he brings, we want that to seep down to the rest of the group, because really you look at the rest of the group and they're relatively young, and it's a group of guys that all have a different set of skill sets there. a guy that has been really fun to watch. Like Ryan Wolfer's a guy we brought in, was an offensive lineman in high school, and right now he's like 235, 240 pounds. He's actually lost, like I call it, like the baby fat. He's trimmed down, and he's running around. He's one of our better receivers in the group right now, you know, and we kind of brought him in with Arthur Ban as like, hey, a receiver and no lineman, being kind of a dynamic duo, and really they've both kind of melded into a complete player, you know, so it's been fun to watch all those guys. And obviously Seth kind of takes the room in the standard and sets the tone for everybody. And for a young group of essentially redshirt freshmen and sophomores with the rest of the group, it's fun to see them pick up where he leaves off physicality-wise, and they're all really going to be complete players. And, you know, like the one thing we've talked to with Seth, like that's his superpower, is being that physical, but like talk about how he's become a complete player too. You know, he's probably been typecasted some of the other places he's been as the fullback and run game guy. And like, you know, one promise we gave to him when he came here is he gonna get a catch here in the next couple weeks, first one of his career. Okay, hopefully a touchdown. But you know, like it's been fun to see him grow, and the ways that like all these guys have come together just as a group. You know, the little stuff of like Arthur Ban's got a receiver background. There's things that he can still teach Seth as a 23, 24-year-old guy, right? And there's obviously things that Seth is leaning on Arthur with when it comes to the run game and helping him out. So it's been fun to see that group grow together.
Now, with a guy nicknamed Boogey Man brought in because he knows how to finish blocks, they tagged him with that at Kennesaw State when he moved to tight end, taking people to the ground, being physical. Who's that guy, they started asking there, and the OC told him, that's the Boogey Man. So that gives you more insight into the stated goal of running the ball more and more effectively this season. Here's Lindley explaining the role of the tight end in this offense when it comes to the run game.
No, I think the great part of that, when you look, like we all talk about finishing, right? Like, and to me, everything is continuing to maintain pressure on blocks, and a lot of that really just comes with your approach. And like, to be honest with you, listen, like I'm a former quarterback coach and tight ends. I take a lot of our run game philosophy from Mike Schmidt, our offensive line coach. He's our run game coordinator. That's where we're going to take all things on. And the next piece being, hey, like sometimes Seth's going to end up with him during a special teams period when I'm working with somebody else. We got to all speak the same language. So the biggest thing, how we're going to take that from where we were last year to pressing that yards per carry number, is how we finish on blocks, right? So again, bringing it back to Seth and like what we saw on film and what we loved about him, the guy had a nature to him that was physical, and he didn't just block people, he finished on them, right? So like that's what the whole group has to take on as a whole. And I think you've seen those younger guys that they're okay now transitioning to, hey, they make the play, they're in the right spot, and that's not good enough. We got to finish on a block. You got to maintain pressure, because usually where we're at, on the edge of somebody or late down the field at the second level of a fit, that's where if we finish a block and we can get into the third level, now we're talking 12, 20, 30-yard carries as opposed to just your 8 if we slip off that thing last minute.
Wouldn't be a segment on San Diego State tight ends if we didn't let Rhino go on and on about the high achievers at Aztecs past squads who've gone on to the NFL, the professional level. East Village Times reminds us of the great Don Warren, who played 2 seasons on the Mesa, played with the Washington Redskins, winning 3 Super Bowl rings. He was one of the original members of the Hogs. That's the nickname for that punishing Redskins offensive line in the 1980s. Robert A. Walt logged 7 years in the league with the St. Louis Cardinals. Daniel Bellinger played in the Big Apple at the position, 3 seasons with the Giants. Gavin Escobar made the roster 5 years with the Dallas Cowboys, moved on to other teams, also played in that brief season of the Alliance of American Football for the San Diego Fleet. Tragically died 3 years ago in a Southern California mountain climbing mishap. Former tight ends also include David Wells, who competed for a time in the league for 5 years, and Mike Wells from the late 80s. Played a season with your Niners, Lewis. So, according to Lindley, the players in the room now know there's a standard that has been set in the past. And as someone who put in the time getting to know Adams prior to him committing to be an Aztec, Lindley sounds convinced they have a guy who can set a standard of his own.
Getting to know his family and his folks was a lot of fun. You know, I everything in your journey is always for a reason. And I think, like, being able to, you know, I spent a couple years down in Mississippi, and obviously with some travels in life, like, you know, spending a lot of time in the greater Atlanta area, recruiting down there a little bit, like, I knew what we were getting and what type of person as soon as I got off the phone with Seth the first time and his mom and dad the first time, right? Like, blue-collar folks from the suburbs of Georgia up in North Atlanta, like, hey, like, I knew what I was getting when I saw on film. And then he talked to the guy one time. He loves football and he loves competing. And, you know, if he could do that, and he was just smart enough, not too smart, but just smart enough, okay? Like, and he's dang smart, so I'm joking. But, you know, like, I knew we could start with something there, you know, and he's obviously, like I said, he set the standard in that room, and, you know, he's gonna leave his mark. And the other piece to me that I make a big deal about, and Nick Bernardi's out here at practice today, and it's like, it's fitting that, like, we try to talk about at least once a week, and, like, he's not only laying his mark and what he wants to do on the field, but like that tight end room and the tight end room here at San Diego State, like there's a fraternity in there, right? So like we even talk about every day, once a week, like different guys that have been in that room, not just the big ones. You know, the Parker Houstons are on staff here, the Daniel Bellingers, the Gavin Escobars, the Ray Rose, guys that have been in that, we call it like, hey, the little closet in the corner of the second floor there, like the guys that have lived in there and set a statement and set a legacy. Well, he's got his own he's going to set this year.
Saving the best for last with Seth Adams. Lewis is down to earth as it gets. He knows who to thank for being where he is today, playing for a Division I college football team, making a little NIL money perhaps, living in America's finest city. The young man knows who to thank for that, Lewis. Yep, Mom and Dad. He expects big things this year, especially from what he calls a physicality standpoint on the team. He, of course, wants to log that first catch, but he's a team player. His roots are as a blocker, just wants to win. Wouldn't be surprised to see him in the backfield as an H-back, Lewis, helping a running back gain 5 yards a carry en route to 1,000 yards or more. Funny how life is. Here's Seth talking about his transition to the 6'2", 265-pound player he is today for his senior season.
Coming out of high school and stuff, I was a 300-pound offensive lineman. Honestly, my senior year, I only benched 225 for one. Really didn't take care of my body. Really didn't value like off the field, taking care of my body and stuff. I worked hard always, but I went to a small school in Kentucky, NAIA school, and it was there that I learned what hard work was. If I ever wanted anything in life, I was going to have to go out and get it. And so it's been a long journey and stuff like that. I at one point dropped down to 230 pounds, and now I'm up to 265 now. So
no extra sugars these days for Adams, not even a slice of birthday cake last 4 years. Did I mention how funny life is, Lewis? Did you know Adams' granddad was in the Navy, served on the Midway? Yep, same ship the Aztecs gathered on Thursday with their supporters. Granddad never got to show him his ship in person, but his parents ended up getting it done. Adams talks about that in this compilation and how he feels now like part of the Aztec family.
My grandpa, he actually served 20 years in the Navy, 20 years in the Army. He actually served on the USS Midway, and so when he was around, he always told me, he's like, before I pass away, I want to take you guys, me and my little brother, on a vacation to San Diego. You got to come check it out. And he ended up passing away. We never actually got to go to San Diego, and so it was really awesome and stuff, and it was kind of meant to be when Coach Lindley reached out at San Diego State and stuff. I always heard that growing up and stuff, so it's been amazing being out here. I love it so far. Actually, my mom and dad came out here a few months ago. My aunt, we took a tour of it. It was really cool to see. It was awesome and stuff. You know, he talked about it all the time. He talked about always taking us on a tour of that, and so to actually see it in person and stuff, and like send pictures back home to my family and stuff, like my brother and stuff, like Grandpa talked about this, is awesome and stuff. It's everything's meant to be. Everything's really fallen into place. My high school coach, he always told me, he's like, he always instilled in us, he was like, boys, wherever you guys go where you're celebrated. And so definitely throughout this the recruiting process in the winter, it definitely felt different and stuff, talking to Coach Lindley, Coach Lewis, Coach Schmidt. Like, it really felt like a family and stuff. Like, Coach Lindley would call my mom and dad and just ask how they're doing and stuff, and you know, that I really valued that and stuff. I really liked that. Instead of looking at me more so as a player and stuff like that, it was more I was coming into a family, and I love that.
Now, as far as actually getting after people on the field, his position is all about establishing control over the C gap between him and the tackle, make the opposing defender in the way feel that he is there. Here's a compilation of his comments about that, the chip on his shoulder, trying to speak with his pads while helping fire up his teammates.
Every play, no matter the assignment, I'm coming downhill to, you know, take another man's will, set that physical tone, just a physical presence. Growing up and stuff, like, a lot of people doubted me and stuff, but I've seen my mom and dad go without. Like, I've seen my mom work till 10 o'clock at night and stuff like that, and I've seen my dad get up in the morning. He's a blue-collar guy, you know, he goes to work every single morning, works construction. I've seen him take duct tape and tape up his boots and stuff like that, but they always made sure that I had the nicest cleats and stuff like that, and making sure taking me and my brother to training lessons and stuff like that. They've always put me and my brother first, and they're definitely a mentor, someone that I look up to, and they deserve the world. I always had a chip on my shoulder and stuff like that. Felt like I've been doubted and stuff. You know, I didn't start varsity football till I was a senior year. I don't really know why they doubt me, you know, but you know, I going through high school and stuff like that, I guess it's because I didn't really take it serious and stuff, and now I'm locked in now and stuff like that. Got something to prove. Always have. I don't think people doubt me now, but I always, in my mind and stuff like that, it gets me going and stuff like that. I always have that chip on my shoulder. I sometimes man a few words and stuff like that, like to set the tone with how I play on the field and stuff. But also, like, when we're in the weight room and stuff like that, you can ask Coach Sobel, like, I bring that juice and stuff like that. Like, if I'm hitting a PR on bench press, like, I'm make sure everyone knows I'm the loudest guy in there for sure and stuff like that. I bring that juice, and then especially on the field, when I set the tone, I lay a big hit, I'm getting up, I'm hitting my helmet and stuff, letting people know I'm there.
Lewis, for a man of few words, we got a lot out of Mr. Adams during our visit. Came away from it thinking the Aztecs could do a lot worse than to bring in a few more guys like Adams from the Peach State. Okay, that should wrap up this edition of Aztecs All In. Make sure you follow us on the X. It used to be called Twitter, but we call it X now. Aztecs_all_in. And drop us a note on Gmail. Hey, it's 2025. You could actually send us some sound files and give us some input, and we can include it on an upcoming podcast. And you can do that by connecting with us on our Gmail account. That's aztecsallin@gmail.com. So for Lewis Weiner, this is Steve Perez saying thank you for checking us out now. We will talk to you soon because Stony Brook is on the horizon, the season opener this coming Thursday.